There's loads of familiar faces there. I can see all my buddies from around the world, all my urban sketching buddies.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, this is great. This is just wonderful. All my lovely friends from around the world with lovely smiles on their faces as well.
It's always when you look at your pictures, I've always got a smile on my face.
Oh, thank you, Gabby. Thank you. And nobody has to feel stressed about drawing or painting. There's like no pressure because we're not drawing or doing anything, are we? We're just talking, which is great. So nice. Hi, May. There's May. I've just spotted May. Hi, May. Lovely to see you.
We're just admitting the last few people in the waiting room, and then we'll get started. For anyone who hasn't joined us on a live call before, my name is Rebecca, and I'm one of the co-hosts at Urban Sketch Course, along with Neil, who's behind the scenes doing all the technical bits for me today. With today's workshop, I really would like you all to come and chat to Ian yourselves. So I really encourage you to unmute yourselves and ask the questions yourself. We'll use, if you're on Zoom, there's a reactions button down at the bottom, and within there it'll say raise hand. So if you do have a question and you want to have a little chat with Ian yourself, please do use that button so I know you've got something waiting, and I can unmute you. If you don't want to talk, that's fine, that's not a problem. We have a little chat box again across the bar at the bottom. There is a box called chat. If you click on that, you'll see a message in there from me. And feel free to drop your messages in there as well. Today's Q&A will be about an hour long, so you've got some time if you're not sure straight away, but we will try and finish off about 8 o'clock here in England. I'm not sure what time that is across the world, but in about an hour's time. And we are recording this as well, so I will edit it up and I will put it on the website for you all. So if you miss anything, or if you want to go back, or if you want to share it with your friends, it'll be available on the website. So I will just check, Joanne, I think you've got a question first, so I will unmute you if you're ready to go. Can you unmute? There you go.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Joanne.
Hi, Rebecca. Hi, Ian.
Hi.
Great, really, thank you for doing this session. Really pleased to be here.
Okay.
One small thing, if my little Jack Russell joins in, do excuse me.
We love dogs. We love me, Rebecca, Neil. We absolutely adore dogs. It's not a problem at all.
I know you do. Question, you know, I'm doing your beginners course, and I look at the colours you use, and I'm really unclear how to venture out into my own colours. So the question, shush, Monty. So the question is, could you tell us how you choose colours for a picture?
Okay.
I'm thinking of using complementary pairs, warms, cools, and how you use those in the picture.
Okay, that's a great question, Joanne. Thank you for that. The choice of colours is always a huge big thing, because you know colours are very personal to everybody. And, you know, as I said before, we'll have our favourite colours and some colours that connect with me, for example, like ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, which are my kind of like two default complementary colours. They're not always going to be other people's, you know, favourite kind of go-to colours. So it's a very personal thing. What I try and do, Joanne, is that if I'm on location, now I know Paul's with us at the moment. Paul was with me in Mexico a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things I try and do when I'm choosing colours is I try and go for a local colour to begin with, so something which you can actually see on location, and it could be the facade of the building, it could be the colour of a door.
Ian Fennelly's got a question and answer period on. Yes. Ian Fennelly, he's a artist.
Sorry, Joanne, I thought that was somebody else's question coming in there. I think someone just needs to unmute themselves. sorry, mute themselves.
Absolutely, carry on.
Joanne, do you know what? I've completely forgotten what I was saying there. Oh, I know, it's about colour. It's about colour. So we start off with a local colour. It can be a local colour. So something you can actually see in the real world, something that's observable. Now, a really good example would be a brown, because lots of cityscapes have lots of browns thrown in them, like the facade of a building or a wall or something. But what I tend to find is once that colour goes on, you then need something else to put alongside it, something to maybe complement it. So the obvious thing would then be to put a blue on as well. So you put a brown on, you put a blue on. Now, this is very generalised. And obviously a specific location would maybe not always go along with this, but very generally speaking, you'd start off with something like a brown, and then you put a blue together, and you'd see how those two colours would play and how they would react together. And then that gives you so much information, such a lot happening within those two colours, that it's almost telling you what else you might need to put on. So the next thing might be an orange, or the next thing might be a crimson colour, a kind of a really deep red. And before you know it, you've got 4 or 5 colours that are all kind of playing together, and you're just pushing them around the page. But what I am trying to do, I'm very mindful that I'm trying to match the tonal value of the colours. So even though the colour might be completely different from what you can see in reality, the actual tonal value of it will be quite accurate. So going back to the urban sketch course, the one that you mentioned, Joanne, what I tried to do with those is almost do it in a much more kind of artificial way. So I came up with, say, 4 or 5 colours that I knew would complement each other as a group. And then I just literally applied them to the scene. So if you take, for example, the English Bridge, I mean, I can't remember which colours I used, but I just came up with 4 almost arbitrary colours that I know would match that scene. Because if you've got complementary colours, like, for example, you've got, say, an orange, a kind of rich orange, and maybe a kind of a turquoise or something, when you put them together, they're almost going to neutralise each other. So within that, you can match lots of lovely, rich greys and browns and neutral tones. And one of the workshops I did in Mexico, and I think Paul was with me on this, is we actually did a whole workshop on complementary colours, where we took a couple of pairs of opposites and we matched them together to neutralise them. So it's very experimental. We're playing around all the time. And I feel we can do that because we're using the colours alongside all the line work and all the Tombow brush pen work and all the hatching and everything else. So even if you make a right pig's arse of the colouring, you know you can kind of fix it because you're layering it with so many other things on top as well, which is why when I do the colouring stage, I'm actually really quite bold and dramatic, because I know it's only like a 10-minute part of a 3-hour workshop. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, if I could just ask for, I think I've got it, just to clarify, you're looking for pairs of colours that tend towards complements,
Yeah.
and will mix to make interesting neutrals, yeah?
Sometimes, yes, sometimes I'll do that. Sometimes I'll do something completely different. So, for example, I'll go back to Mexico again, right? When I was in Mexico, I did 5 workshops. Well, I did 10 workshops. I did 2 lots of 5. But every workshop was a different way of using colour. So one of the workshops was going from cool to warm right the way across the page. So on the left-hand side, we started with cool and we swept across and we went from cool to warm. Another one was using complementary colours. Another one was using colour as a kind of outline frame. Another was using colour in the centre. Another one was using as many rich, warm colours as you possibly can. So each time I'm using colour, I'm trying to be really creative and inventive, just to make it as interesting as possible for me and for the students. But what we've tried to do with the beginners course, though, going back to your original point, is I've tried to focus on 4 colours that I know combine really well together. So you'll get a mixture of maybe 1 or 2 warms, 1 or 2 cools. You know, there'll be a really kind of strong, powerful and opaque colour, but maybe be a transparent colour so you can layer it with glazes. So we've tried to come up with 4 colours that I know work really well together, and that's just through having done it, you know, a few times and having these kind of in the bag as a set of colours that I know work really, really well.
Hopefully that's helped there, Joanne.
That's terrific. Thank you very much.
You're
Brilliant.
welcome. You're welcome, Joanne.
We've also got a question from Kelly. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself, Kelly, if that's okay. It may pop up and there you go. There you are.
Hi, Rebecca. Thank you. Ian, hi. Hello from Rhode Island. I'm a big fan. I really enjoy your workshops. Thank you. It's really been terrific.
You're
So
welcome.
this is hanging up here from
Oh,
the
wow. From the jar.
yeah. So my question is, I am really confused by all the Tombow pens. All of these, you seem to go directly to whatever you want to use right away, and I just don't know which one to use. I mean, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yeah.
So I just was curious if you could just enlighten us a little bit, how, because you choose them pretty quickly and you're kind of intuitively using them.
Yeah.
I'm just a little lost. I get warm and cool. The numbers, I'm like looking madly at them, what I'm using. So I'm just really confused about these brushes.
Okay, so what you probably want to do then, Kelly, is limit them and don't have too many. You probably only need 4. 4 would be enough. I sometimes use about 6, but you probably can get away with just 4. So you need the N15, which is the black one.
Yeah.
Okay. You need the N60, which is I call that the cool grey, but it's more like a kind of indigo kind of grey. It's the kind of like a purpley sort of grey.
Yeah.
Okay. You need the N79, which is the warm grey. Now those two, the N60 and the N79, are both mid-tone. They're mid-value. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the other one you need is a light grey. And there's several different ones. I think one's an N89 and an N95. So you just need one of those two. So you just need really 4 of them. 4 would be enough. You don't need any more. I use another pen, which is the 65. But I use that to sketch out at the beginning, and I really do that so people can see it on the screen. But you don't really need it. So just those 4 would do. So what you've then got is you've got three different tonal values. You've got your black, and you've got your really light grey, and you've got 2 medium ones in between. And the 2 medium ones are completely different in terms of temperature. So you've got a really cool one, and you've got a really warm one, and that will be sufficient. That's all you need. Because as I said before to Joanne, you're putting this on top of paint, and also sometimes you're painting on top of it as well, and you're putting line work on top, you're putting hatching on top, you're drawing it on top of line. So you're going to make it much more rich anyway than those 4 isolated colours, because it's a very kind of multi-layered approach. So just those 4 are great. That'll be great. Yeah. Where's Rhode Island? I can't remember.
Well, it's Rhode Island is it looks like England. It's a farm coast, so it's lots of farmlands along the rivers and ocean of Narragansett Bay. It's close to Boston and close to New York, kind of in between.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to Long Island in October. So it's further up from there, isn't it?
Yeah. So yes, it's beautiful, and everyone says it looks like England. But I'm looking forward. I would love to do a workshop with you next year, especially that Mexico one. Now that we're out of COVID, I would really love to travel and go to a workshop.
I'm afraid Mexico's gone. I'm afraid.
Not going to do it again. Oh no, I meant next year.
No? I won't be doing it next year. No, sorry. I never go back to the same place. Well, I do sometimes, but I won't be going back to Mexico. No, it's too far. It took me 3 flights to get there. And it's so long to get to these places.
Well, my name's Kelly, so I really should get over to Ireland or get over near you and get it closer to you. So I'll look forward to a workshop with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Kelly. Thank you very much.
Right. We've also got Ken Boo waiting, and I know you asked a question in the comments as well. So I'll head to you next, Ken Boo, if you can unmute yourself.
I can.
Hi Ian, how are you? I'm talking to you from New Zealand, so if you're looking for a long flight, we'd look forward to you coming out.
Okay, so this must be like really awful time in the morning for you now.
No, this is beautiful. 8:15 in the morning after a leisurely breakfast.
Oh, that's good. That's not too bad.
Yeah,
that's great.
Perfect. No, just a quick question, Ian. In terms of watching your videos, you talk about I've got plenty of water on my painting. and then it takes hours to dry. So
Yeah.
what I can't see when I'm watching the videos is just how much water you're using.
Yeah.
Could you just talk about that?
Okay. That's a really important thing, the amount of water that you put on it, and it has a huge effect upon the painting process. Because when people ask me about the painting side of things, obviously the most common thing is to talk about the colours, but it's just as important the amount of water that you're putting down. Because if you put too much down, then it's all over the place. And if you don't put enough on, you can't kind of stroke the brush across the page, and it looks very kind of like clumsy and not really the effect that you want to achieve. So what I try and do is when I'm using the brush, say the flat brush, which is the wide one to put the washes across. If I find I've got too much water on, which I often do, I'll probably put too much on to begin with. I then won't put any more on. I'll just use the brush and I'll push it across the page. And if you look at any of the videos, you'll see me do this all the time. I actually put the brush on the page and I brush it across. So I'm almost taking a big, thick, chunky line for a walk across the page like you would do with a pen. And what that does is it obviously allows the water to spread across the page, so you haven't got too much. And then you're kind of avoiding getting all those cauliflowers and things like that. But it also helps you to kind of mark out the spaces that you're trying to describe with the brush and with the colours. So I do a huge amount of that. And sometimes if I put too much on, I'll just get a paper towel and I'll just mop it up a little bit as well. But also, I think in answer to your question, it's the choice of brushes. So a lot of the time, if I want to put a wash on, but I don't want to put too much water on, I'll actually use one of the bigger riggers, say a number 3 or a number 4 rigger, and I'll use it on the side. And that's a great way of describing a nice flat area of colour without putting too much water on, because you can't get that much water on a rigger. So that's a really good thing to experiment and play around with. And again, you'll see me do that an awful lot. But the problem is when I'm painting, I can't always explain that, because I was saying to Neil and Rebecca before, just before we came live, when I'm painting, I can only really explain one thing, but I'm actually probably doing about 10 things at once. So one of the things that I probably wouldn't talk about is why I've chosen a particular brush and why I'm holding it in a certain way, and the angle at which it's hitting the paper, and the amount of water that's on it, and how I'm dragging it across, because all those things you can't talk about, because what I've just said to you happens in literally seconds. So what I'll probably say is, well, I've got some ultramarine blue now, guys, and I'm just putting it across the page, and look at that wonderful effect. But there's actually another 10 things that are going on that I'm aware of, but I can't articulate them. So one of the big things is the amount of water that you're putting down. So my answer to your question is, try, if you feel you're putting too much on, spend longer with the brush in contact with the paper and spread it out, push it around a lot more. I think that would probably help. Even if you just do as a little technical experiment, and get one of your riggers. If you've got like a number 3 rigger or a number 4.
Oh
rigger,
yeah, I've got all sorts of things. Yep. So
yeah,
not a problem.
Try using that on the very side, not the tip like you would do normally to describe a thin line, but use it on the very side and push it across and see what happens. And I use that all the time. It's a great effect. It's really good.
All right. Thanks very much, Ian.
You're welcome, Ken.
Hopefully that helped, Ken Boo. Next up, we have Olga, who has a question. Can I ask you to unmute yourself?
Yes. Hi, and greetings from Germany. And with that, also apologies for my accent.
Your accent's lovely. It's great. It's wonderful.
Thank you. So my question is basically, if you are on a scene, for example, doing city tour and found a nice building or element you would like to capture, but you cannot really get far away enough or into a, let's say, nice position to draw it because streets, other building, other people. Do you have any strategy of how to deal with it, or would you just stay away from that particular element?
Okay, so again, for example, I'll go back to the story when I was in Mexico a few weeks ago. I saw lots of wonderful buildings, Olga, that I would have loved to have drawn, but it's just too impractical, you know, to actually sit in these locations, because either they're really busy or the light's in the wrong place, or there's a whole host of reasons why sometimes it's not possible to draw the scene that you want to do. And I think sometimes as well you can be too close to it, can't you? And you're looking up all the time, and it just gives you a headache, and you're not going to enjoy it. So I think it's always a compromise. And I know, for example, when I go places, I don't always get to capture the images that I always want to really capture. Sometimes you have to maybe do the next best one for practical reasons. I was in London last year, and there's some wonderful, wonderful things to sketch in London, but it's such a big, busy city that a lot of the time you're in somebody's way. You park up outside a shop and you think it's going to be really quiet, and then suddenly the shop opens and there's people outside and they come out and they get a bit arsey with you and all this kind of thing. And sometimes it can just be more hassle than it's worth. And I, perhaps like yourself, I just want to have as much fun drawing on location. I want to love every moment of it. So I try and make as many of the factors involved as enjoyable and as pleasurable as possible. And one of the things is to make sure you're in a nice, safe, comfortable space, and the view in front of you is going to be really engaging. And it's not always going to be the best one, unfortunately. You can't always capture the greatest hit. Sometimes you have to go for the next best one.
Big Ben.
Yeah.
When we tried to capture Big Ben, and he was all covered up, wasn't he?
It was all covered in scaffolding, wasn't it?
And one follow-up question to that, what bugs me a lot is parked cars in front of, let's say, nice buildings. So would you just, let's say, imagine the scene without the cars, or would you rather capture the cars?
Most of the time, it kind of depends, really. So, for example, if you started drawing and then a big car or a van or a lorry or something rocks up, I think I will probably be inclined not to draw it and draw around it. And sometimes you can just shift your position slightly, can't you? And you can kind of move from the side to side. But a lot of the time you can fade it away. So, for example, if a car's parked in front of the building, you can kind of like just fade the bottom part away, and it just acts as a kind of a bit of space for the picture to breathe.
Okay.
And a lot of my sketches, you look at some of them and things do fade away a little bit towards the bottom. And that's probably because there was a big car park there and I couldn't see what was behind. Or you can wait and you can wait for it to move. I was doing the workshop in Amsterdam at the symposium a few years ago, and we were doing a view across the bridge, and this huge big white van came and parked up, and it stayed there for about an hour. And we only had 3 hours for the workshop, but thankfully it did move. So I just said to all the students, look, make the most of the next hour and draw everything around it, almost like draw the frame, everything around you, the bridge, the lampposts and the things kind of poking up above. And hopefully, he might drive away. And thankfully after an hour he did, because if he hadn't, I would have been really stuck.
Okay. Good. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. And then next up we've got Helen as well, Helen Bullymore. Hi, Helen.
Hi.
Hi, Ian. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thanks, Helen. How are you?
Oh, very good. Thank you very much for asking. Thank you. So a question that I have is, what is it that makes you choose an image? What is it about a scene that makes a good scene to draw? Because I know I've been drawing pretty much every single day, and I'm finding it increasingly hard to find the right thing to draw or paint, sketch, whatever. And I just wondered what your process is for finding what you think is a great image to sketch.
Right, that's a great question, Helen. Thank you. I think I'd take it right back to the reasons why I want to paint in the first place, why I want to do what I do, is because I want to tell stories. That's the thing that drives me. I just want to tell stories about the places that I go to, the things that I see, the things that I find are really interesting. So, you're looking for an excuse to tell that story. So some people just want to tell a really, really simple story, like this is what the door looks like, or this is what the roof is like. But that doesn't kind of do it for me. I want to tell a much bigger story, because I know that I'm going to spend 3 hours or maybe 2.5 hours on location looking at this scene and I want to drag as much interesting content into it as I possibly can. So you spend a lot, I mean, I do spend a lot of time looking and thinking and wandering around. I mean, I spent literally 2 days in Mexico before the workshop started, just looking and sitting down and thinking, and, you know, having a really good think about what are going to be the best subjects for me to be able to teach the students, but also to tell the story of me being in San Miguel. So it takes a lot of looking and thinking, and a lot of it is based upon what you know you're able to do as well. So for example, you're starting to build up a really strong repertoire of work now, and you kind of know what you look for and what you're good at doing. And that has a big impact upon what you go searching for. So for example, you might go somewhere like Mexico, San Miguel, or you might go to London, or you might go anywhere at all, and you might see the most wonderful building, but you know it's not you. You don't do that kind of thing. It doesn't suit you. It might be because it's the wrong shape. So for example, I mean, this will probably sound really stupid. I'm going to New York in October, and the obvious thing in New York is to do all the pictures vertical, okay? Because that's the obvious thing to do, because everything's up, up, up. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do them all horizontal, because I don't want to do them vertical, because A, it'll give me a stiff neck, and B, all the interesting stuff happens at ground level. You know, all the kind of the pedestrian walkways and all the street furniture and all the signs and maybe the yellow taxis and all the stuff that I'm interested in happens at ground level. And that's because I've done a lot of drawing over the years, so I kind of know what I'm looking for, and I know all the elements that are going to come into play, all the really, really simple shapes that are going to enable me to structure a really interesting image on the page. And then within that, I can go deeper and deeper and deeper with the layering and with the stories. So I don't know whether that answers your question, because it involves lots of things, you know, knowing what you're capable of doing, knowing the kind of stories that you want to tell. Also, it's challenging yourself as well. You know, you've done a lot of drawings over the last year, so you want to start pushing it now and making it maybe harder for yourself, you know, looking for maybe more complex perspectives. We've got a course coming out. Neil, Rebecca, when's Robin Hood's Bay coming out? Do we know?
Next on the list, so that's within the next month, that'll be there.
Yeah, so the next course that comes out is going to be like a really advanced course. It's Robin Hood's Bay. We filmed it last year, and I did 6 workshops, and I tried to make them as complicated as possible for me. So there's lots of, I mean, I know you've seen some of them. So you're looking down the hill, you've got the sweep of the hill, you've got some really complex perspective, lots of, you know, really, really tricky kind of stuff, because I need to challenge myself as well, which is something that is really important, that you have to just keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. Totally, yeah. Probably doesn't answer your question at all.
I think what you're saying is like push your ability, but at the same time there has to be a part of your heart. You know, you can't just paint something. You can't. I'm sure you can't just look at something and go, "I need to paint that." There has to be something in your mind, and I know that when I see something, I'm like, "Yes, that's it. That's the image. That's the view. That's the thing." But it can take such a long time to find that. I think I probably spent equally as much time looking for the right image, the right thing to draw, as I do actually painting and drawing.
Yeah, I think that's so true. Yeah, well, I hope that kind of answers the question for you a little bit.
No, it does. And I tell you what, I'm looking forward to Montpellier in September.
Brilliant. Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Helen. Take care. Bye. Bye.
So just before we move on, I've got a question that kind of ties into Helen's question that I want us to address from Sharon, who has asked, do you have any tips for modernist buildings and urbanscapes? In Australia, it's mostly concrete, which I know that kind of ties into sort of choosing your location and looking for it in the scene. Is this Sharon? Sharon in Australia? Yes, Sharon. Yeah. So tips for drawing modern buildings.
Yeah, because I always look at all the European, you know, urban sketches, and I think, yes, they've got lots of interesting texture and lines, whereas basically what we're often looking at is concrete squares. I live in Canberra, the capital,
Okay.
which is a totally designed city. It's
Yeah.
it's 100 years old. It's, you know, we've got lots of gardens. We're good for the trees, but sort of in front of the concrete blocks.
I've been I was in Sydney a couple of years ago, and that was wonderful for drawing, because there's a lot of
Sydney's wonderful. It is all around the river, and it's got interesting buildings like the Opera House and all the rest of it. But that's not all of Australia. You know, yeah. So
I'm hoping to go there next year. I'm hoping to go out there next year to teach.
Yeah.
But we'll be. I think we'll be in just outside Melbourne if we go.
Yeah, see, Melbourne, you'll probably love Melbourne. Melbourne's a bit like London in some places, you know. But yeah, I just wondered if you had any tips for when you're faced with an environment that is very much a modernist and brutalist environment. Yeah.
70s brutalism.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, you can find beauty and interest in anything, can't you? I mean, I've done lots of modern buildings before, but going back to what I said to Helen, is you've got to be turned on by it. You know, you've got to feel the need to want to do it. Otherwise, it's pointless, really. So if I was to do a modern building, it would not be as as quirky or as wonky or as wobbly as some of the old stuff that I do. You know, you would if it's a straight building with you know, skyscrapers and things, they tend to be pretty straight, because otherwise it just looks silly. It doesn't make any sense at all. So what I would say, Sharon, is just find something that you're really excited by, that you like the look of. And also what I was saying before about New York, which I can imagine, you know, if you've got lots of skyscrapers, lots of kind of modernistic buildings, there's always lots of really interesting stuff down at the bottom, isn't there? You know, with the curbs and with the signage and with the street lamps and with the walk, you know, the sidewalks and, you know, the don't stop, don't walk, don't stop signs and all that kind of stuff. There's all sorts of amazing street furniture and junk that you can find at kind of ground level, which sometimes can be the main events, that can be the subject. And then the modern buildings just almost act as a kind of background.
Yeah. The trivia of modernism, really.
But it's also the human part, isn't it? So it's the it's cafes and the and as you say, all the stuff that's talking to people, and the buildings. They can become just a backdrop for all that.
Okay, thanks guys. Well, good luck anyway. All right.
Thanks. So next up, Ian, we have a question from Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, Ian. Hi from Leeds.
Hiya. Hi. Nice to see you.
And you as well, of course. So my question is about, I often don't have time to spend 2 or 3 hours on site, so I'll do a little thumbnail and take a photograph.
Yeah.
And the problem I always have with that is, you know, there's bits of the photograph that become ambiguous, or you can't really tell what's going on. Maybe I just need to learn to take better photographs, but I don't know if you've got any tips for working from photographs where there's a bit of a black hole in them or something. And
Well, do you know, I actually do a huge amount of work from photos. I mean, I'm not one of these people that say you've got to work on location all the time. I do a huge amount. I mean, a lot of the workshops I've been doing recently, we've had to do from photos, and during COVID as well, I did lots of kind of online stuff. I think with a photograph, you've got to be very careful that what I try and do is simulate the experience of being outside and just use the photograph as a kind of reference point. So you're not kind of copying the photograph, you're getting your inspiration, you're getting your ideas from it. But all the time, I'm very mindful that I'm actually trying to recreate the experience of being there, which is almost kind of impossible to do. But I feel it's something that's worth trying to do. So, for example, if you're going to maybe do a thumbnail sketch in Leeds, hopefully when you're on location, the experience of being there, you'll capture all the things that you feel are important. You know, you'll get your basic composition, your perspective, and maybe the few little bits of narrative that you feel are really significant. And then when you take a photograph, you're just using the photograph to polish things off, aren't you? You know, to kind of get your textures and get your detail and maybe get a bit more of your depth in place. because I've done that as workshops before. We did a whole series of workshops once where we actually did our thumbnail sketches on location for maybe 15-20 minutes, took photographs, and then went back into a studio and worked from the photographs. And once you've got that initial composition down, that kind of outline shape, then the rest of it is just finding information, isn't it, to put into that framework. So I mean, I think it works really well, and it's a really valid thing to do. If you go through my Instagram accounts, probably half the pictures have been done on location and half have been done from photos. You can't tell them apart at all, because even I can't tell them apart, and I did them. I can't remember. I mean, May, who's coming up in a minute, May's done loads of online workshops with me, and they've all been done from photographs. They've all been done from photos. And I know Hillary's here. Hi, Hillary, who was with me in Mexico. And Paul was with me in Mexico. And the workshops I did with Hillary and Paul, they look exactly the same as the workshops I've done with May. You can't tell them apart. And I kind of feel, confession time, guys, I feel really bad about that. I feel like there should be a difference. I feel like you should be able to say, oh, that was done on location, that was done from a photo, but you actually cannot tell them apart at all. Because what you can also do with photo is, if you've got, say, for example, you take the photograph and something happens, like a car comes along, and that often happens as you're photographing a street scene, a big ugly van comes along. So you get back and you look at the photograph on your phone or your iPad, and you think, I've lost all that information, it's important. Well, you just fade it away. You just make that area of your picture kind of ambiguous, and just put washes of colour and a few little suggestions of windows or doors or wherever it might be. And again, it lets the picture breathe. It works as a really good compositional device. So you haven't got the same, like a photograph's full of intensity right across the surface, but a sketch is completely different. But a photograph, if you've taken a photograph and you've got things in it that you really don't like, you leave them out, and then it probably looks more in tune with the experience of working on location, where you're constantly editing things and not putting everything in.
And do you feel you've got to be quite close in time to the photo when you take
No, not. I mean, I work from photographs that I took years ago, and I work from photographs that I never even took. You know, I mean, I did one of Kiev quite recently, the cathedral in Kiev, and I've never been to Kiev. I just found that image. I just thought it was wonderful, and I felt like I really wanted to do something. So I did it, and then fortunately we managed to make quite a bit of money for the relief appeal. So I did another one of some trees. Now the second one I did of some trees, where I used the same colour combination, that was a photograph I took in Blenheim Palace Gardens about 6 years ago. And I felt the trees, were going to work really well with this kind of thing. So one was taken from a photo that I took myself years ago, and the other was just an image I found off the internet. And it doesn't really matter. It really makes no difference at all what your starting points are. Whether you're lucky enough to go outside and your starting point is to be on location, or whether your starting point is an image that you find off the internet. It really doesn't matter. The important thing is that we're just doing it, and it means something to ourselves and to other people as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll just add on to that, Tim, before we move on, is just to, sometimes in an image, when you come to then sketch it, you think, oh, I don't really like that, or I don't like that. And there's times, I know when we've been on location, that Ian's taken something from way out of scene and pulled it into scene. So it's always worth, if you are going to work from a photograph, just take a quick little video as well, just to get a real feel for the place, get a little sense of the vibe. And then if there's anything that you don't like or you want to change, you've got more footage to work from as well. Just a handy little hint there for you. So next up, we have a question from Graham. Can I ask you to unmute yourself, Graham?
Hi, Graham.
Hi, Ian. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. I'm very well. How are you?
Good. I'm down in Winchester in the south of England.
Okay.
Right. My question for you is, I'm from a sort of technical drawing background, so I tend to get a little bit stiff with the drawing and not free up. Have you got any tips for sort of trying to free up, make it, as you do, more loose?
Okay, wow, that's a great question, isn't it? So tips on loosening up. I think I suppose this kind of really alludes to the first part of the sketch, the first couple of steps, because when I get onto the detail stage, I'm quite detailed and precise and technical, and the pen slows down an awful lot. But I think at the beginning, I'm very loose, because I'm trying to capture everything all at once. I'm trying to get a kind of a feel for the composition and get that composition onto the page. So I do hold the pen very loosely at the top, and I think that's because I'm not intimidated by the subject itself. What I'm trying to do is almost recreate the subject as a piece of artwork. So anybody with a technical background, because I used to work in a drawing office. When I first left college, for about 2 or 3 years, I worked as a drawing office manager. So I've got this background in technical drawing as well. Believe it or not, but I don't really use it anymore. But one of the things I was very mindful of is that when you're working in a technical environment, that you are almost illustrating that it's the building that matters, and the building that's important. And what you're doing in a technical way is you're just kind of almost like paying homage to that particular building, because ultimately everything has to be fairly precise in terms of the amount of windows and the perspective and the proportion and everything. And then I think what I've done over the years as an artist, I've kind of tried to go in the opposite direction. So what matters to me is the image that I make. So if I need to take half the building out, or take a few floors out, or take a few windows out, or ignore certain doorways and change the color, change the shape, then I will do that, because that's my mindset. That's how I'm thinking about it. And then linked into that is the way in which I describe all of that on the paper with the pen. So I'm doing it in a very kind of loose way, because it's all about mark making. It's not about illustrating the idea of the building. It's actually creating a piece of artwork. So if I look at the side of the building and it's dead straight, and I know it's dead straight, if I think a wobbly line is going to work so much better, or a bent line or a curved line, that's exactly what I'll do, because I'm in control of the image. So rather than it being a technical thing, Graham, I think for me it's more of a state of mind that I am controlling this image that's in front of me. So for example, when we were in London last year, we did all these kind of iconic buildings, and we did the Tower of London as one of the subjects, one of the things that we filmed with the Urban Sketch course. And you know what Tower Bridge looks like? It's got 2 towers, it's connected together. It's got to kind of look a bit like Tower Bridge. But that doesn't mean to say the lines have to be straight. You can bend the lines, you can shape the lines to add more drama and more story to it. So it's, as I said before, it's more like a state of mind that I am in control of this image, and I'm going to push it and bend it and shape it in whichever way I want to create the image that I feel is important to me. And that's based upon having done the opposite, having worked in a drawing office and been trained in technical drawing and learned all about perspective and all that kind of stuff, which I did years and years ago. And I did it while I was at art college as well. So now I just bend it and shape it and mess around with it as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, I started out with all good intentions of being a bit more free, and then suddenly it resorts to the technical straight line stuff. But anyway, that's thanks for that answer.
Well, the thing's great. Think to yourself, why am I doing it? What is it that makes me want to draw this building? Is it because I think the building is so amazing that I just want to capture it and do it justice and make it look like the building? Or am I more interested in me as an artist and me making marks on a page and me expressing myself? So yeah. I think that's the difference. That's what you need to think about. If you're going to go into this world of urban sketching and creativity and art, I think you need to think, what's more important, the building or me? Who matters the most? And every time it's you matter so much more. That process is so much more important, which is why you can hold your pen right at the end.
Cool. The other thing I'm sort of struggling with is with the watercolors. You seem to make it look so smooth and creamy the way it sort of flows. Mine just comes all muddy. Is that just practice, or is it just the way
it's practice, and it's also using lots of water as well, Graham. Use plenty of water to push that water around the page, and don't use too many colors, and think of tonal value as well. Think of the tonal value.
Do you wet the paper first?
No, God, no, don't do that. Don't wet the page first. No, it's hard enough as it is. No, don't wet the page. No, it's going to get wet anyway.
Right, thanks very much, Ian. Brilliant.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
Thank you, Graham. Oh, sorry, May I just used you by accident? Sorry. You're too fast. You're ahead of me. There you go.
I just left it off mute. Hi. So I started with the beginner urban sketch course, and you've started doing something a bit different with this, is that you're using pencil right off to sketch the image instead of the Tombow markers right away. And so I must confess is that I'm feeling a bit challenged, because now I don't really understand why you're doing the pencil. Like, it's another step, and what is it? I mean, I know that you can erase it, right? But one of the things that I've learned working with you is that if you're using like the N95, it's so pale.
Yeah.
By the time you finish your sketch, it disappears. So I'm just curious.
Okay, great. That's a great question. So the beginner's course was designed as a beginner's course, which is why we called it the beginner's course. So that's why we're using pencils at the start. And I think we say that in the introduction as well. So it's just because a lot of people, and I find this even now on workshops, when I'm doing real life workshops, a lot of the students still want to use a pencil at the beginning. And I don't want to discourage that. I don't want people to think they've got to use exactly the same methodology and process as me, because that's not my way. I want people to be really comfortable with whatever materials that they're going to be using, as long as they're not using charcoal or chalk or oil paint or collage or sculpture. That's fine. But as long as they're not using any of those things. So, for example, if you want to use pencil at the beginning, because they feel more comfortable with a pencil, then that's not a problem. The only thing I would say is if you've got a pencil at the beginning, in your other hand, you're bound to have an eraser. So you need to be mindful that if you're going to draw, rub out, draw, rub out, draw, rub out, well, by the time, we've all moved on to like step 4, you're still on step 1. So the only caveat with the whole thing of using a pencil is that you don't want to be rubbing everything out. But I think in answer to your question though, May, we designed this particular course for beginners, so people can use pencil at the beginning if they want to. But you've done loads of live workshops with me, and if you feel you'd rather use the N65 Tombow, then you can do that. That's absolutely fine, and it won't make any difference to the outcome at all.
I just found it confusing to sketch it in pencil and then do the Tombow marker, and then it was an added step it's fine. Thank you. I understand.
That's all it is. It's like adding in an extra little thing. But you see, with the pencil, I'm still using the pencil in exactly the same way as I would use the Tombow brush pen.
Right.
Marking it all out. It's just giving people that extra little safety net, really. Yeah.
Okay. And I wanted just to say thank you to Rebecca and yourself. I love this. I think this is absolutely fabulous.
Oh,
you're very welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, May. Thanks very much. You take care.
Yeah.
So next up, we have, is it Ted? Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Ted.
Hey, I'm zooming from Seattle, so it's a perfect time of the day. And Graham, thank you. You asked my question too, but I just wanted to say that I'm recently retired, kind of new to this, always been a doodler. So you're very inspiring, and I appreciate that. And I do struggle with the not being taking chances, I guess, and adding the bold colors, and it kind of my drawings are pretty much just what I see, and I want to branch out and do more. So
right, okay.
Trying to be more, I guess, bold. I guess that's what I need to do, huh?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, And I think also, Ted, you know, you have to find your own voice, you know, the thing that you want to say in all of this. You know, what is it that's unique about this whole process to you as a guy? You know, what is it you want to say? You know, why do you choose, or why do you choose certain subjects? Why do you choose certain colours, certain shapes, certain patterns? What is it within all of that that's unique to you? And I think that's the most important thing. You know, even if you're doing a workshop with myself, an urban sketch course, and you're learning skills and techniques, ultimately those skills and techniques have to be applied to your own way of looking at the world. You know, and that's one of the wonderful things I see in workshops, where students are learning stuff, they're learning techniques, processes, understanding the materials and the way in which we go about doing it step by step, but then they apply it to Seattle. You know, they look outside the window and they see something and think, right, I can do this now, and this then becomes yours, doesn't it? It's yours. Yep. It's your unique vision of the world, and that's what makes it so wonderful and so good for us at the moment, with all the stuff that's going on, that we can just go out and we can express ourselves in a way in which nobody else does. Nobody else can do it in quite the same way that you can do it.
Great, thank you. Inspiration, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much, Ted. So I've got 10 minutes left, so I'll take these last two questions and then we'll round off, if that's okay, Ian. So there's no name on this one, it just says iPad 7. Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can, yeah.
Right, just a sec.
Oh,
just turn the earphones off. Hi, it's Perry Nyland. Hi, Rebecca. Nice to see your face.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I'm in Vancouver, West Coast, Canada. So my question is whether working from sketches or out on location, I'm completely overwhelmed if a structure, building, whatever it is, has lots of windows and lots of doorways. And I get stuck every time and I don't know how to tackle it.
I'm sorry, what's your name? I missed your name.
It's Perry Nyland.
Perry?
Yeah.
Perry, hi Perry. So is it because there's lots of them and you don't want to put them all in, or because you feel like you do put them all in and it takes you too long, or what is it about the windows?
It's usually because I'm overwhelmed by how many they are, and then I start to draw, I can't fit them in.
Right. Well, just do what I do and miss the mouse. It's so easy. Just miss the mouse. Miss Windows out. Are these big, tall skyscraper type buildings with lots of little windows? Is that?
Well, sometimes, but sometimes it's like a street scene where there's shop windows, doorways, and it's like, oh, there's too many, and like how I can't fit them all in.
Okay, well, if you look on, are you on Instagram?
Yes.
Okay, well, if you go on my Instagram feed, there's a picture I did about a week ago, and it was a sketch that I did outside, and it was a terrace of houses, and there's loads and loads and loads and loads of windows. It's not the last post. It could be the one before or the one before that, I'm not sure. And it's Hamilton Street in Birkenhead, which is not far from where I live. And I drew it outside on location with the local urban sketching group, and it's got loads and loads of windows. It's like there were so many of them, but I probably missed half of them out. Now, you'd never know. You wouldn't know that I've missed half of them out, because it's like what I was saying to Graham before. It doesn't matter that I'm replicating that building, because the building isn't important. What's important is me sitting down, looking at the scene, being in the moment, being mindful, enjoying everything that's going on around me, chatting to my friends, listening to Bruce Springsteen, all that kind of stuff. That's what matters. The building and the windows, I couldn't care less. The building is not important. What matters is you and your experience and what you're doing as a creative person. So if you need to miss not just the windows out, but you need to miss some of the buildings out, you miss them out. But also, to keep it interesting, if you look at this picture that I mentioned in Hamilton Street, you'll see that a lot of the windows are kind of the same, but I've actually done them all very differently. So you're actually being quite inventive as well. So rather than just being rectangles, you're looking at the frames, and you're looking at the sill underneath and how it sits, and the patterning on the ironwork, and the bricks in between, and the colours and the tonal value and the perspective of them. So all the time you're trying to be as inventive as possible to keep it as interesting as you can. So that's what I do. I'd either miss them out or be really inventive with them and play around with them, and just, you know, just have as much fun as you can. Or don't draw scenes with lots of windows.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you for the tip. And
another thing you can do as well, Perry, is you can put things like street signs or lampposts or traffic lights, anything like that, and it just breaks up that space. And that's always a good little device. And if there isn't a traffic light or a street sign there, we'll just go and find one and drag it down the road and pop it in. That works. That's a good
okay. Thank you. Those are great tips. And I look forward to meeting you next month. I'll be in Avignon for the workshop.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
We'll have a whale of a time. That would be great. Yeah. Can't wait for that.
Okay, super. Thank you.
Take care. Bye. 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 Bye.
And Perry was the lady who included Maisie in the Sketch Wales course sketches.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun. Totally fun.
She's fast asleep now. She's not paying any attention, unfortunately.
Oh, brilliant. It's so nice.
So next up we have Sil, and this will be our last question, if that's okay, guys. We'll try and finish now.
How, Rebecca, sorry, Cynthia's got her hand up. Can we do Cynthia as well?
We'll do them both. We'll do them both.
Cynthia, we'll do you as well, okay? Cynthia, we'll do Sil now, but I'm just letting you know now, this had better not be a hard question, okay? This had better be a dead easy question, okay? Right, Sil, sorry, what's yours? What would you like to?
Mine is very easy, I think. Well, hi everybody, hi Ian, hi Rebecca. I'm here from Brazil, and it's very hot here, it's 30 degrees, and I hope you all are very well, and I'm sorry for my accent. I'm a huge fan, and I discovered you from Terra, Africa Terra, and of course Sketchbook, Urban Sketch. And well, it's not a tough question, I think, but the opposite of everybody, or some guys who say that they're struggling to choose one particular view to draw. I want to draw everything. And I want to draw Pinterest, I want to draw Instagram, and sometimes I'm watching a movie with my husband and I want to draw, and I say, stop, and I take pictures all the time. I'm like a crazy person. And if I have enough time, I will draw everything, but if you don't have time anymore, it's so precious. So how can we choose? I mean, how can you look for, like 2 options and say, this is the one? Because I can't do that. I just can't.
Right. That's a hard one to answer, really, because I'm a bit like you. I go somewhere and I know what's going to happen when I go to New York. I'm going to want to draw everything. I'm going to have to really rein myself in. So I think you need to stop and think, what am I going to get out of this? How exciting, how much fun is this going to be? Because I think all the time we're just looking, I think, to make ourselves feel as good about the process as possible. You don't want to draw anything that's going to make you feel bored or restless or miserable, or you wish you hadn't done it, and then you get all frustrated. So I'm quite careful trying to choose the ones that are going to give me almost like the biggest sense of satisfaction and gratification. And I know it's going to be tricky when I go to places like New York, and we're all going off to Barcelona in May, and we're going to be doing some filming. So there's going to be Gaudi stuff coming out all the time, and I'm going to have to be quite selective because I think we can only do four workshops while we're there. So I know I'm going to be stuck for choice all the time. But again, you've got to think, right, which are the ones that are going to make the biggest impact for me, but also, for other people as well. So sometimes you're looking for colors, you're looking for shapes, you're looking for stories. What's the story here? What is in this particular image that I can unearth and present to people and show people? So it's really hard to answer this, because not knowing what the images are that you're confronted by. One of the things that I feel, for me anyway now, is that I want to make everyone count. I want every picture, every sketch to matter. to me and to hopefully other people as well if I'm teaching. So I am quite selective. Like, for example, I don't really draw much at the moment unless I'm having to do it, unless I'm going off with a group or I'm going somewhere on location. So, I mean, I haven't drawn today and I won't draw tomorrow because I just don't feel the need. But some people would be sitting here now and they'd be sketching the computer, or they'd be sketching the guitar, or they'd be sketching the chair. And I get that. I really respect people that do that, but it just doesn't work for me. I have to kind of wait and bide my time and go somewhere really exciting and then put everything into it. You know, in that 3 hours I'm doing it, everything just gets put together to hopefully, you know, make the picture the best one it can possibly be. Yeah.
So from my way out is taking pictures, so I will not miss, and I'm kind of a little bit more comfortable because okay, I have the picture, so if I have any time to do it. But I like the tip about should be a history, should be a story, should meaning something. I think this is a good thing. Sometimes I just want to draw because it's beautiful, and maybe it's a good filter.
I mean, there's a lot of people that draw. I mean, Liz Steele, for example, who's a wonderful urban sketcher. She draws a lot of coffee cups. And Barbara Llewellyn is a friend of mine from Belgium, and they really specialize in these kind of little still lifes on the table, and they're wonderful. And they do them beautifully, beautifully observed. And I really appreciate that. But it's the opposite of me. I would never do that. I just wouldn't feel the need to want to draw a coffee cup. But I can completely appreciate the people that do it. And I know that they really feel, you know, it's something that's important for them to do. Because, you know, we're all turned on by different things, aren't we? You know, we all respond to the world in a visual way, and some things get people in different ways. And that's what makes it wonderful, that, you know, we all see the world through our own experience and our own memories and our own feelings, and you know, and I think that's what makes it so fantastic. That's why I love seeing all the work that the students do on social media, because it's great, because everybody's work is so different. Everyone has their own little style of working and their own little voice and their own little unique line, and I think that's wonderful to see that. Right, thank you, Sil. So finally, last but not least, we have a dead easy question from Cynthia. You promised me.
Well, just to say hi, Ian, I just love your work so much, and I got to meet you in Amsterdam. Super cool, hot, wonderful time.
Yeah, I remember Cynthia. Yeah.
And yes, my quick question is, how do you add that wonderful element of whimsy? Like, how do you know when you take to straight buildings to make them like this way, or to add the witchy towers, or you know, how do you get that wonderful element of whimsy that makes them so fabulous? That's my question.
That's the hardest question of all. Seriously, you know what? I really don't know. I don't know how it happens. There's some things you can explain. There's some things you can, and I'd like to think I can explain things pretty well because of a teaching background. You know, I can say, we do this, we do this, we do this, and this is what happens, and this is why we do it. And I explain the why behind pretty much everything. But there's some things that I do that you can't explain. They just happen. They're just there. You know, they just did you do the Montambas Tower with me, the third workshop where we did the tower across the river?
Oh, I can't remember. I've done a whole bunch of classes with you, so but I think that it may be that after just working with you for a long enough time, maybe we'll just pick up like when to expand the building or narrow it up or make the clock bigger or emphasize the witchy towers or whatnot.
I think a lot of it goes back to looking at the beginning, doesn't it? It's looking and thinking of the key things to start with before you make any marks on the page. You know, you have to really look at the scene and think to yourself, right, how am I going to do this? How am I going to make the most of this 2.5, 3 hours with this subject in front of me on this piece of paper, using these materials, knowing all the things that I know, how am I going to maximize that opportunity? So it could be, as you just said then, making a clock tower a little bit bigger, making the outside edge bend that way or that way. Those little things matter hugely. And then you're stuck with them for the next 2.5 hours. You know, they really, really do matter. And that takes a lot of thinking to begin with. And then there's the other side of all of this, which happens at the end, where you're doing all the little inventive things, you know, all the little patterns and textures and details, and you're adding things into the picture and you're taking things out. So it's happening right at the beginning before you even started. And it's happening right at the very end when you're embellishing it with all the little stories as well. But some of it you just really can't explain. It happens, and it's based on just years of experience, I suppose. Yeah.
And using all the wonderful tools of expression that we've learned from you. Thank you so much for everything, Ian. Rock on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cynthia. Lovely to see you again. Right, wonderful. That was great. No really hard questions there. Thank you, everybody.
Hard. No, not too hard. Everyone is saying thank you so much in the comments. Everyone's had a really good time. People enjoying the courses. Lots and lots of compliments there, and if you get a chance to have a ping through later on. But thank you so much to everybody who's joined us. We really appreciate all the support from everybody. If anyone's not already on our courses, we have a free course available if you head to the website. That question's come up a few times. We also have a lot of questions about holidays and workshops. If you guys pop over to Ian's website, there is a holidays page there and a workshops page, and there is also space to drop in your email, which we'll send out regular updates on upcoming workshops. So that's ianfennelly.co.uk. I'm assuming you all follow Ian on Instagram for regular updates there as well, but it's a really handy tool to share your own work and stay up to date. And I think that's everything. Do you want to finish off, Ian?
Yeah, can I just thank everybody for joining us, and thank you for all the continued support through Urban Sketch Course as well. It's wonderful to be able to do this. It's a real privilege. I love doing it so much. It's been a bit tough recently, you know, with lockdowns and COVID and restrictions and things, but you know, hopefully we'll be able to get out a little bit more over the next few years and hopefully see each other and bump into each other. I know there's a lot of people here that have done my workshops before in person, so it's wonderful to see you. And creativity is a great thing. You know, it fixes you in the moments. It's very good for you. You're in complete control, and you know, it's a privilege for me to be able to do all of this, and I just appreciate all the support as well. It's a wonderful, wonderful global community of creative people, and we need love at the moment, don't we? And this spreads love. You know, it spreads happiness, it spreads joy, it spreads positivity, and this is what we need at the moment, guys. I really mean that.
Thank you. If anyone has any more questions at all, feel free to pop over to Facebook, Instagram, contact us directly at support@urbansketchcourse.com or via the website. And we hope to see you all around soon. Thank you all so much for joining. We've loved every minute of it, and I will get to editing this video and put it on the website live for you all. So thank you, guys.
Bye, everyone. Take care, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Look after yourselves. Be safe out there. Okay. Good luck with your pens and your paints. Oh, lovely. So nice.
Bye, everyone.